Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue. I'm your host, Nick. This is the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. Today, we're going to talk about the Dodgers and the Angels series that just finished up. Of course, the Dodgers got swept by the Angels. The first time all year that they've been swept. Probably the worst series of the year so far. Obviously, we got no candle going. The vibes are very low. Dodgers pitching staff is in a mess right now. So we're going to talk about all that. Before we get into it, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Follow us at Talking Blue Pod on all social media. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Put the notifications on so you can get the notifications when any of the videos drop. Follow us on Reddit at competitive-week8715. You can follow myself on my personal X at Talking Blue Nick. Quickly, I'll just kind of explain how we'll do the pod today. We're going to go through some injuries quickly and some roster stuff. There was another big roster move like we talked about earlier in the week with Austin Barnes. Then I will run through each game, kind of go through them pretty quickly. Obviously, Dodgers lost all three. And then I'm going to talk about Will Smith. His bats looked really good. And then I'm just going to talk about the pitching as a whole and where the Dodgers stand and kind of this mess that they're in right now. The actual injury stuff. Kirby Yates got hurt in Game 2, hamstring injury, so he goes on the 15-day IL. Hopefully, he can return after the 15 days. Tommy Edman returned for Game 3, so he comes off the IL. Teoscar Hernandez looks like he will come back Monday and join the team, so the Dodgers lineup will be pretty much fully healthy. When it comes to the actual injuries, that's pretty much it. Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow have started throwing. Obviously, Roki Sasaki went on the IL recently. Probably aren't too far from Michael Kopech returning. I hope I'm not missing anything. Blake Trinan is also playing catch, but looks like he's a ways away. That's pretty much it with the Dodgers pitching. So let's just quickly talk about the big roster move. Of course, Chris Taylor gets DFA'd or released, no longer with the Dodgers. Earlier in the week, the Dodgers DFA'd Austin Barnes and brought up Dalton Rushing, and we talked about it. Austin Barnes had been with the team for a long time, backup catcher. So backup catchers are whatever sometimes. Kind of just need them to handle the pitching staff. That wasn't that big of a move, and it made the Dodgers better that they call up their top prospect. We'll talk about Dalton Rushing a little bit. First, he came over to the Dodgers in 2016. He was a light-hitting infielder with the Mariners. Didn't even have a career home run before he came to the Dodgers, and then he ended up hitting 108 in his career with the Dodgers. Made a massive swing change, hit the ball in the air more, led to more power. Super clutch player Chris Taylor was. Had a lot of big moments. I'll never forget watching him hit the home run in 2017 to start the World Series and then the home run to win the wild card game. Really loved Chris Taylor. The last couple of years, the offense just fell off mightily. He's always been a guy that swung and missed a lot. Now that he's older, he doesn't have as good bat speed, and he just swings and misses way too much. And the Dodgers just kind of couldn't have him on the roster anymore. Probably could have DFA'd him last year. And with Hae-Sung Kim looking really good since he's been called up, the Dodgers were put in a tough situation. Once Edman and Teoscar come off the IL, that they had to do something, and it made the most sense to not have Chris Taylor on the roster. The only question was, would they actually do it? And they actually did. So I give the Dodgers a lot of credit. You have to go with the better, younger player right now in Hae-Sung Kim. Hae-Sung Kim should be a part of the Dodgers' future. Unfortunately, Chris Taylor isn't at this point. Very unfortunate. I always really liked Chris Taylor, but I kind of have wanted the Dodgers to move on from him for a couple years now, and I think they finally made the right decision. So the lineup looks like it's going to be fully healthy, so that's really good. So let's get into the games. Again, like I said, quickly, I'll kind of run through each game. May 16th, Dustin May versus Kohanowitz. Did the preview series, of course. Dustin May gives up a 2-run homer right away in the first inning. Angels go up 2-0. Then later on, they tally on some more runs. Zach Neto doubles to make it 4-0. The Dodgers would get on the board on a Max Muncy double, and then later on in the 8th inning, Shohei Ohtani hit a home run to make it 4-2. But then Nolan Shanuel would deepen the Angels' lead. They go up 6-2 and they win by a final score of 6-2. So they take game one. Dustin May goes 5, Jack Dreyer for 2, Luis Garcia for 1. Ryan Lotus pitched 1 inning at the very end. So like I said, Dodgers lose game 1 by a score 6-2. Jack Kahanowitz was actually very good. Went 6 2/3. Had 5 strikeouts. Did have 4 walks, but pitched around some trouble. Only allowed 1 earned run. Dustin May, quickly, kind of just like I have talked about in the past, continues a lot of his not so great but not so terrible performances. He goes 5 innings, gives up 4 earned runs on 6 hits, 2 walks. It does have 8 strikeouts, so he did have some pretty decent swing and miss in this game. 10 swings and misses. So Dustin May's kind of in that awkward spot right now, coming back from not pitching for so long. He is one of the only healthy pitchers the Dodgers have had to start the year, so they're going to run him out there, of course. But he's kind of been in this funk for a month now where he hasn't really had any good performances, just a lot of average performances. Gives you enough to win the game, but obviously you would like him to be better. His ERA on the year now is 4.43. He struggles with command at sometimes, but again, it's kind of weird because he hasn't been getting hit super hard. He hasn't been horrible or anything like that. I still believe in Dustin May because he has a lot of good pitches. His sweeper and his four-seamer are still really good. He gets a lot of ground balls, so I think he can maybe unlock something. Maybe he should incorporate the cutter a little bit more. Maybe he can just switch something up, and I think he can get more success. So I do believe in Dustin May, but right now he still has kind of continued to give you some boring outings. So the Dodgers offense in this game, there wasn't much of it. They had 7 hits. They did put some runs on the board later in the game. Ohtani did hit a solo home run in this game, his 16th of the year. Mookie was 0 for. He didn't do much in this series. Freddie Freeman was 0 for. Will Smith does have 2 hits. We'll talk about him in a little bit. And then Ha-Seong Kim also had 2 hits. So one of those games that if the Dodgers put some runs on the board earlier in the game to keep it a ball game, to keep the ball game close, they could have won the game later on. The Angels just hit Dustin May well, and Jack Kahanowitz probably pitched better than most would have expected. So we'll go to game 2. Clayton Kershaw, of course, comes off the IL. It was super exciting to see him. Clayton Kershaw versus Tyler Anderson. We talked about the 2 old lefties. The Angels get on the board with a 2-run single from Logan O'Hoppe. Then Matthew Lugo with 2 outs would double to make it 3-0. So in the first inning, Kershaw gives up 3 earned runs. But then Andy Pages ties the game up with a 3-run homer in the bottom of the first. So Pages just continues to be incredible so far in the season. And right now it looks like he's got a chance to be an all-star for the National League, so that's really good. Then Taylor Ward, he homered off of Kershaw, got a hanging curveball and crushed it. Angels go up 4-3. Then some more traffic. Andy Pages made a really nice play, but Joe Adell would score on a sac fly, so they go up 5-3. Kershaw gets through 4 innings. Later on, Kike Hernandez went deep. I believe I predicted him to go deep in this series, but that was game 3. He got the start in this game, had a couple hits. He homers to make it a 5-4 game. Dalton Rushing would actually tie the game. He got his second career start in this game. He doubles into the right field corner to tie the game 5-5. Shohei would actually ground into a double play later on to extend the Dodger lead, but they would end the 7th inning with a lead, 7-5. But then, of course, in the 7th inning, Nolan Shanuel doubles to bring in Zach Neto to make it a 1-run game. And then Logan O'Hoppe, this was the biggest swing of the game, hits a home run, 3-run homer. Angels go up 9-7. They would later tally on another run to make it 10-7. Dalton Rushing would get another hit to make it 10-8. And then Max Muncy also make it 10-9. Angels lead. But then another home run for the Angels. Matthew Lugo makes it 11-9, and then that will be the final score. So back and forth game. Dodgers pitching just didn't do enough to keep the game close for the Dodgers offense, although the Dodgers obviously scored 9 runs. So Clayton Kershaw for 4, Ben Kasparius for 2.1. Kirby Yates goes 1/3 of an inning. Of course, he left the game with an injury. Luis Garcia also goes 1/3. Tanner Scott goes 1 inning, and then Alex Vesia goes 1. He gave up the home run to Lugo. Quickly, Clayton Kershaw, his final line is 4 innings pitched. He gives up 5 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. So Kershaw throws 83 pitches. Like I said, he got through 4 innings. Really curious to see what he looked like, what his velocity would be at. There were talks in the minor league. The numbers in the minor leagues had his fastball in the high 80s. It was around 87, 88. He did average 89.2 miles an hour on his fastball, so that is good. Hopefully, it wasn't all from him being juiced up and a little amped up in his first game back. He maxed out at 90.9, so on the TV that gets rounded up to 91, which he did a couple times. So his fastball was around 88 to 90, got up to 91. So that velocity is pretty good for Kershaw, considering that it was a little lower in the minor leagues. So we'll see where he's at in his next couple starts. But the thing that was obvious to me on TV was that he did not have great fastball command earlier in the game. A lot of pitches got away from him. Slider actually wasn't getting too much chase on it. Did have 10 whiffs in the game, and that's pretty solid. 6 were on the slider, 4 were on the curveball. So he didn't get any swings and misses on his four-seamer. He also mixed in 8 splitters, which is pretty cool because Kershaw's never had any kind of real changeup or splitter or anything like that. So I'm not going to kill Kershaw, or I'm not going to praise him necessarily. Obviously, it was not a good start because he gave up 5 earned runs, but there were positives to take away from it. He goes 83 pitches. The fastball average, like I said, basically 90 miles an hour, right under 90. So with the fastball being up a little bit more than you thought, and he actually was able to get some whiffs, he was able to kind of lock in his command in the middle part of the start. So I still believe that Kershaw can be a solid pitcher. We'll see where it ends up. Last year, he threw only 30 innings, had an ERA of 4. But I've always been amazed that he's always found a way to just pitch good games and have good outings and always ends up with really good numbers. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kershaw does that. Again, if you're relying on Kershaw to be one of your better pitchers at this point, you'll be in trouble if that is the case. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kershaw pitched good for them. So in the first start, there's not really much you could say. His fastball being up a little more was good. A little bit of the swing and miss was good. I think he will iron out some things with his command. Obviously, the 3 walks is something you don't really see from Kershaw. He always has really good command. So I think if he is able to improve the command, obviously you wouldn't see as many walks in this game, and the outing would have been a little bit better. We'll see what Clayton Kershaw looks like going forward. I think his next start will come against the Mets next week. So we'll see what he looks like against a pretty good lineup. So all in all, it was nice to see him. Shohei actually went 0 for 6 in this game, but Mookie had a hit. Freddie Freeman has 4 hits. Pages has 2. Of course, one was a home run. Kike Hernandez has 2. He also went deep. Dalton Rushing has 2 hits. So the offense definitely did its part in this game. It's just that the bullpen and the pitching overall just couldn't hold a lead. Got to give credit to the Angels lineup. I talked about how bad they were coming into this series, and they really proved me wrong, honestly, because they hit really well the entire series. So it was a really disappointing game considering the Dodgers put up 9 runs, had the lead. They went down 3-0, then tied the game. Then they went down again and then retook the lead, and they actually went up by 2 runs at some point. So there was a point in the game where Michael Conforto was in the 8th inning, was left to hit against Kenley Jansen. Probably should have pinch hit for them there. Probably should have pinch hit for Conforto there, considering how bad he's been. But they're going to do everything they can to give Conforto a complete chance to figure his struggles out. So we'll go to the third game. Sunday afternoon would be Tony Gonsolin versus Yusei Kikuchi, May 18th. So, of course, right away, you guys probably saw Tony Gonsolin has a blister / fingernail issue where he's bleeding. I immediately was just like beside myself. I couldn't believe here we are with all these Dodgers injuries, and then someone who's been good since coming back from injury is now dealing with a blister issue. So I thought he was going to come out of the game. I was a little shocked when he didn't, because if you have some kind of blister issue, normally you're just going to be favoring that the entire time, and it's going to affect you. It's kind of crazy how could you even pitch when you have a blister issue? But give credit to Tony Gonsolin because he did stay in there. So quickly, Zach Neto started off the game with a home run. He took Tony Gonsolin deep. Then a couple batters later, Tyler Ward takes him deep to make it 3-0. So the Angels go up 3-0. Then Travis d'Arnaud would single to make it 4-0. the Dodgers would respond. So in the fifth inning, Shohei Ohtani brought in Kike, RBI single. All the way ahead to the seventh, the Dodgers have had a couple rallies where they couldn't cash in. Will Smith homers to left field, 3-run homer to tie the game. So now we are tied 4-4. So after a lame weekend where the Dodgers pitching has just been really bad, Dodgers find themselves back in this game late and have a chance to at least salvage the series. But then in the eighth inning, Travis d'Arnaud homers off of Anthony Bonda to give the Angels a 5-4 lead. Dodgers would not score in the eighth, and then after another RBI for Yohan Moncada makes it 6-4, and that score would hold. So the Dodgers lose and get swept. They lose all 3 games, first time this year. Tony Gonsolin went 4 innings, so he did gut out 4 innings after having a bloody finger. Lou Trevino makes his Dodger debut after he was picked up. He goes 2 innings, gives up no earned runs. Anthony Bonda, he gets the loss in this game because of the home run he gave to d'Arnaud. He goes 2 innings as well, and then Luis Garcia for 1. So the one positive in this game was that Tony Gonsolin could have came out in the first inning, and they showed on the broadcast that they were actually talking to Landon Knack about maybe having to come in and pitch. He went down to the bullpen. He's actually tomorrow's starter, Monday's starter against the Diamondbacks. And they were almost going to have to bring him in. That's where the Dodgers pitching is at. I actually don't know that I've seen a guy who is scheduled to start and in the rotation get asked to come out of the bullpen. That would have been pretty wild, honestly. It would have just messed up the whole Dodgers. It would have messed up the Dodgers' entire rotation for the entire week coming up. So Tony Gonsolin quickly goes 4 innings, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 5 walks, and 3 strikeouts. So it's not going to be entirely fair to kill Tony Gonsolin, considering that he was pitching with the bloody finger. It didn't affect his velocity too much. We've talked about his velocity. It's been around 92, 93. It's been kind of back to where it was before he got injured. In this game, he did average 94 miles an hour, did get up to 96. So I don't want to give him too much of a pass because he did seem to kind of figure things out. You would have to think that the bloody finger was hurting him a little bit. Obviously, he had 5 walks. He's always been a guy who has really good command. I think that if he doesn't have that issue, he would have pitched a little bit better. He would have been in the zone a little bit more. So I still think Tony Gonsolin's going to be good for the Dodgers this year, considering the way he looked his first couple starts. This was his first bad start. So hopefully his next start, he can kind of get the fingernail ironed out. A lot of times when guys have blisters, you just hope that it doesn't carry on. We saw in 2020, I think it was believed, Walker Buehler had some of those issues. I think Rich Hill, when he was with the Dodgers, had issues with that. So hopefully that doesn't linger into something. It looked like it was on his thumb, which is kind of helpful. Maybe not. I don't know. I think it was affecting his splitter. So bad performance by Gonsolin, but what are you going to do? He had the blister. So quickly before we go into the Dodgers pitching, I just wanted to shine some light on Will Smith. Will Smith's been incredible this year for the Dodgers. He's actually been one of the 10 best hitters in the sport so far, and he's basically been the second best catcher in the league so far. So I just wanted to give some of his offensive numbers. Will Smith is hitting .336, which is 4th in all of baseball. He's got an on-base percentage of .441, which is 2nd in all of baseball. He's slugging .483. That gives him an OPS of .924. He also has a walk percentage of 16.1, which is the 5th highest in all of baseball. So any metric you look at, he's been one of the 10 best hitters in baseball this year. And behind Cal Raleigh, he's been the 2nd best catcher in all of baseball. He's been the best in the National League. He is not striking out too much. Like I said, he's obviously hitting .333 while hitting for extra base hits. Now, he does only have 3 home runs. It's kind of funny. One of my predictions this year for Will Smith was that he was going to have a new career high in home runs, having the best start to any year he's had in his career. But he only has the 3 home runs, like I said. It's still very early, so he could still break his career high record, which I think he could still pass his career high, which I think is 25 or 26. And Will Smith's always been a guy who hit home runs and hits for power, and because of his swing, he hits the ball in the air a lot. So I think that the home runs will start to come more, but he's been incredible. Like I said, one of the best catchers in the game, one of the 2 best catchers in the game. Very key considering that Teoscar went down. So against lefties, Will Smith slides into the 3-hole. And they just got Tommy Edman back. They're going to get Teoscar back. The lineup is going to be really full, healthy, and it's going to be looking really good. Add in Edman and Teoscar to this lineup right now with a lot of guys that are swinging the bat well. So I just wanted to give some credit to Will Smith. He also is in the 89th percentile in caught stealing above average, so he's one of the best throwers in the game. And when it comes to pop time, he's in the 79th percentile. So he's very quick, and he's got a very strong arm behind the plate, and he's one of the best hitting catchers in the game. The last talking point will be the Dodgers pitching staff, and that is what won't spend too much time on it, but I just wanted to get into some of these numbers and these injuries and just my thoughts on the rotation and the pitching staff, bullpen, guys injured, all that stuff. So right now, they have a team ERA of 4.14, which is 18th in all of baseball. That is just too high, and it is not really acceptable considering all the attention their rotation got coming into the year and how good it was supposed to be. There was talk about them potentially having the greatest rotation of all time. Now, obviously, they have a ton of injuries, so it's not necessarily their fault with that stuff. But their pitching has not been as great the last couple of years. One of the things that always made the Dodgers a super team or an incredible regular season team was that they had really good offenses, and they paired that with really good pitching and really good run prevention. And the last few years, that hasn't been the case. Really, since the start of 2023, their pitching has just not been as good. Now, that coincides with all the injuries that they've had. I think that is a big proponent of it. I don't think that the Dodgers have just had a bunch of bad pitching. I think that they've just had a lot of injuries, and I don't really know what the Dodgers are supposed to do with that. I don't know what they can do. They have a lot of guys who have had a history of injuries in the past, like Tyler Glasnow. They brought over Roki Sasaki, even though there was question about his arm. Blake Snell has had injury problems in the past, but for the most part is a pretty durable pitcher. He's just never been a pitcher that goes deep into games. That's why he hasn't thrown a ton of innings throughout his career. The Dodgers pitching staff right now is a mess, and they have a lot to figure out because after Yamamoto, the pitchers that are available and healthy are just not getting it done right now. Landon Knack has not looked great. Dustin May, for about a month now, has struggled. They have 37-year-old Kershaw come back, and they're going to rely on him. And then, of course, Tony Gonsolin just came off the IL. So I don't think that we should panic yet when it comes to the Dodgers pitching. Injuries happen to everyone. You just got to find a way to manage through it. But there is no doubt that it's starting to become worrisome to me, especially when you consider that Yamamoto is really the only good starter right now. Now, again, Tony Gonsolin looked good before his last outing where he had the finger issue. But again, he's coming off of Tommy John, so how much can you expect from him? Kershaw is 37 coming off of surgery and not throwing a lot of innings last year. How much can you ask from him? Dustin May has never been a guy who's been healthy. How much can you rely on him? So they need to get someone back of this group of guys that have become injured. I think who they need most to come back is Blake Snell, because I think that I've said this before. Tyler Glasnow, when he got hurt a couple weeks ago against the Pirates, I think it was, I told you how he kind of officially fell into that bucket of I'm not really expecting him to be back. If he's back, that's great, but mentally, I'm not really thinking about him. If he comes back, that's nice, but I hadn't really been counting on him. Hiroki Sasaki got hurt. He hadn't really been pitching well, and I don't really know where that's going to go because of the velocity dip and all of that. And the way he was pitching, you kind of don't even want to see him pitch down the stretch. Again, maybe he becomes healthy and figures stuff out. I think Blake Snell is the most important because if you can pair Yamamoto with Blake Snell at the top of your rotation, all the other options that the Dodgers have, I think it can work itself out and they'll have a solid rotation. What they also need is for Ohtani to come back and see what they have with him. We need to see what Ohtani looks like. I think they got to speed up this process of his rehab. I know that they wanted to take their time with him. I'm sure that they felt coming into the year that they could slow play it. They wanted him to be as ready and prepared and as fresh as they could. But I also think you don't want to overdo it. Ohtani hasn't pitched since August of 2023. you don't want it to get close to 2 years since Ohtani's pitched. Now, again, I know we're still in May, so I'm not saying we're coming up on 2 years, but there isn't really much talk of him yet of ramping things up, throwing live bullpens or anything like that. He's still kind of in the bullpen stage where he's not throwing all of his pitches. Doesn't seem like he throws every week off of the mound. I could be wrong about that. So I think they've really got to speed up that process because you got to see what Shohei can give you. And I think if you can have a rotation of Yamamoto as your ace, the Dodgers have an ace in Yamamoto. I believe he'll stay healthy. And as long as you have an ace, you can start somewhere when it comes to the makings of a good rotation. You pair him with Blake Snell. That's a legit 1-2 punch. I think that if he comes back healthy, he'll pitch really good. If Ohtani can be your 3 starter, obviously that's a really good 3, and I think that would really help the Dodgers rotation, of course. And then from there, when it comes to 4th, 5th starters, 6 starters, you have a bunch of guys to pick from between May, Tony Gonsolin, Kershaw. We'll see who else comes back. So right now, I think the 2 most important guys when it comes to injuries are Blake Snell and Shohei Ohtani. We got to see what they look like. Now, when it comes to guys just performing better, Dustin May goes to the top of that list for me. Like I said, before this last start, Tony Gonsolin has been good. Kershaw has just come back, so we'll see what he looks like going forward. Roki was in this same boat as well, but he, of course, just went on the IL. I think Dustin May can pitch better. I said it earlier. He's got the sinker that leads to a lot of ground balls. He's got the really nasty sweeper that has the highest spin rate in all of baseball, and it does get some good swing and miss. And then he also has a pretty good four-seam fastball. So I think Dustin May has all the makings to be a good pitcher right now. But he has not been able to put it together consistently to start the year. So I don't think it's time to fully panic. I think there's a world where they can have a really good rotation without adding any new pitchers. But they just have to get someone back, and I think that someone needs to be Blake Snell most importantly. And when it comes to the bullpen, right now they have Tanner Scott, who's been pitching very good. Vestia is becoming a little scary with the home runs, but overall he's been pretty good so far. Ben Kasparias has been dominant. Jack Dreyer has been very good. And then after that, you have Trinan, who is injured. Kopech will come back. Evan Phillips went on the IL. We'll see if Brusdar Graterol comes back at some point. So I think if they could just get a couple of those guys back, and you have Tanner Scott, you have Vestia, you have Kasparias, you have Jack Dreyer, and then maybe you have Kopech, and then maybe Blake Trinan or an Evan Phillips. That's a really dominant bullpen. And then you're always confident the Dodgers can add a reliever at the deadline or something like that, or someone can improve. Maybe someone kicks to the bullpen. So the Dodgers got a ton of moving parts. They got a ton of injuries to deal with. They got to figure out something with all the injuries. I don't necessarily think the Dodgers need to panic and make some kind of trade for a pitcher, but obviously the season will play out, and if it gets to that point come July, the Dodgers need to make a trade. You know that they'll do it. The bottom line is that the Dodgers pitchers that are healthy need to be better. Guys like Dustin May has to start to improve a little bit. Landon Knack has to be a little bit better. Kershaw, we'll see what he looks like. Tony Gonsolin, hopefully he can continue to pitch well. I think this last start was it was tough for him to pitch with the finger issue. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up. This was a really disappointing series, but the Dodgers will face the Arizona Diamondbacks this week. Not going to have a preview series on them. They just played the Diamondbacks. I will have a preview series coming out for the New York Mets next weekend, and I will have a special guest join me, so stay tuned for that. We're going to preview the Mets series. So hopefully the Dodgers can get on track against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Their offense is still putting up a lot of runs, and I think it's going to actually get even better with some of the guys that they got back in Teoscar and Tommy Edman. Hae-Sung Kim now has a full-time spot, doesn't have to worry about being sent down, at least for now. Include Dalton Rushing into the fold. I know I didn't talk much about Rushing. His at-bats look really good to start his young career. He's got really good plate discipline, and he looks like a really confident hitter. I really think there's going to be a point where he overtakes Michael Conforto's spot in left field. I know that they came out and said he's going to be the backup catcher, and I think that will be the case for a while. But at some point, I just think he's going to continue to put up really good at-bats. And if Conforto can't turn it around, they're going to be forced to move Conforto to the bench or maybe some other kind of roster move. And he will go to left field, I think. And then the Dodgers will have to probably call up Hunter Fiducia or something like that to be a backup catcher. The bottom line is I'm not worried about the Dodgers. Even with all these injuries and not great starting pitching, they still have one of the 3 best records in the game. They are getting a little bit healthier on the offensive side, so they're going to put up a lot of runs. The offense is going to be loaded, I think. They just got to get something out of the rotation. Again, you don't have to have the greatest rotation of all time, like people talked about coming into the year, or the best rotation in baseball. They just have to be better. It's got to be a lot better. And it all starts with Yamamoto, of course. He's their best pitcher. He is their ace. He is one of the best in baseball. But guys like Dustin May, Landon Knack, Kershaw's got to be solid. Like, those guys got to bounce back, and they got to improve a little bit. So that's going to wrap up episode 26 of Talking Blue. Thank you guys for listening. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm going to be posting more YouTube shorts, a lot more stuff. Follow us on Reddit at competitive-week8715. Follow my personal X at Talking Blue Nick. Keep an eye out for the Mets preview series later this week. That'll be a big series. Dodgers and Mets are 2 of the best teams in the NL. So, thank you guys for listening. We will see you guys at the conclusion of the Diamondbacks and Dodgers series.